Hello, everyone. This is Hushman with eBikes USA. With me is Chris Samanchek.
Hello.
And we want to talk to you guys about his new bike and why he went with this. So, Chris, you and I have had a history with Ristrettos. You purchased the very first one we got, the first generation. How's that bike doing for you? You've been riding it for a couple of years now.
A little over, about a year and a half on that bike, and I've been loving it. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely that model is called the 303 FS. That's the full suspension Founders Edition, and it's got a little different design than this one. It's a little less refined than this. It's a little more industrial because they were still working out the kinks.
Well, you know what 303 stands for, right?
303 was the area code where they were made, and they were the original
prototypes were made here in Denver.
Here in Denver, and now they've got the 512, the 512, which is out of Texas or Arizona?
Austin,
Texas.
Austin, Texas.
So this design is built off of the original, but they've refined a number of elements.
Well, they went back and created a whole new frame for this bike.
Yeah.
You know, it's a beautiful frame, and they designed it. Also, along the way, they upgraded everything compared to the original one.
Yes.
I say the original one is already vintage.
It's
when it was manufactured, it was vintage, right? With its history, where the frames were made here in U.S., hand put together here in U.S. So that is the Founders Edition is really a special bike. But tell me a little bit about this bike, the new one.
So the Ristretto, one of my favorite things about it is how they've kept all of the beneficial designs, and they've refined the parts that were a little bit more that needed a little work. Okay. So they went from the multi-speed gear system, which has pluses and minuses, to a single speed, which also has pluses and minuses, but I think it has more pluses than minuses.
In this case, definitely it does.
It refines the system. It makes it a more solid, reliable ride. The multi-speed system has quirks to it, and if you're not very particular on how you ride it, it'll give you some tricky problems. Whereas this is just get on and go.
So before we get to the motor and the drivetrain, the electronics, tell me a little bit about the new frame. Well, how does the new frame feels like?
So
what does it feel like?
The new frame is a fluid form or hydroform aluminum frame. So they've changed the design. They've kept the same shape as far as the lines, but they've changed the tubing, they've changed the battery housing, they've changed the motor housing, they've refined the rear triangle, and they've really stepped this into modern manufacturing as opposed to, like you said, the vintage style.
Handcrafted. Yeah, that's why I call it this vintage already.
And so in that, it rides really nice. They've also, one of my favorite things is they've moved the pedal position further forward and the seat a little bit further back so you can actually get an extension on your legs.
Perfect.
The original design, I can't quite get the same extension unless I'm almost sitting off of the rear of the seat.
So yeah, it's more of a pedal forward design in order for you, the rider, to have a better pedaling position if they do choose to pedal.
If you want to actually get in some, and they've also the new display and the way it connects to the new app gives you a lot more control over how you want your settings.
So let's get into the electronics. That's the history. What kind of motor do we have here?
This is the CYC. This is actually the Generation 4 CYC motor. It's their it's the same motor core, but they've upgraded the way that the controller, and they've upgraded the design on how it's integrated into the bike.
And it transfers the power, obviously being a mid-drive. You're relying on the main chain to transfer the power, but it's really the chain that drives the rear tire.
Yes, yeah, being a mid-drive, the motor, it pulls the crank, and that pulls the chain, and that moves the wheel.
Okay.
And one of the things that they did when they went from a multi-speed to a single speed, because the multi-speed, you can accelerate in the lower gears real fast, but in the higher gears is slower. That was at 3,500 watts. This with a single speed, to get the same acceleration off the line, they juiced it to the 4,500 watts.
The new generation is a higher power
So,
bike.
well, both motors can handle up to 5,000 watts, but they didn't program the other one because the multi-speed gears didn't like that much power. If you shifted and you didn't shift right with all that power, you snap your chain.
So what is the voltage of the battery?
So this is, the current voltage on this is a 52 volt, and it's a 30 amp hour battery. So in that, it's, they say between 45 miles of range and up to 100 miles of range, depending on how you're using these systems.
What do you think the realistic for the way you like to ride
What
it?
we know from riding different bikes is usually if it's a 30 amp hour battery and you're a heavy on the throttle, you're getting 30 miles.
Especially on a bike this
On a bike this bike is about, I don't know the weight exactly, but it's roughly 100 pounds.
I think it will do more than 30 miles.
It might.
But you're
You
absolutely
can
right.
rely on 30.
You can rely on 30 miles, especially at higher power, but I think we'll do a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I'm talking, you're not laying off that throttle. You're not, you know,
So the way it came out of the box, before you downloaded the app, what was the power delivery feel like? There was a street mode and the race mode, right?
So between the two, the street mode was very slow, very low power. And in the settings, it showed that. It was the level 1 is 250 watts, level 2 was 500 watts, and level 3 was 750 watts.
Okay.
750 watts does meet the class 2 requirement for e-bikes. So the street mode is really for streets. The race mode is an off-road mode. Now the race mode, they give you a lot more power, and that's where you also get more top speed.
So let's get that out of the way.
So
what is the top speed
So
of
the
this bike?
street mode, it gives you the new legal standard, which is 20 miles an hour, and it cuts off.
Right.
Then, if you are going to be riding somewhere not on the streets, not on the roads, where you can ride off-road with your own land, the race mode goes up to 40 miles an hour.
So this bike can handle 40 miles an hour. And is it my understanding that you and Dusty tested it with GPS?
Yeah, we used a secondary
Device?
app
Okay.
to check what the measurements were, given the wheel size and the motor, and what the speedo was reading, and it was accurate.
It's
It was,
accurate.
yeah.
So it is 40. So
It's
this
an
one
accurate
shows
40.
accurately.
Yeah.
That's very good.
So
good.
and 40 on an electric bike is plenty fast.
I can imagine. You'll be using this bike among many other bikes you have, which that's a topic
That's
for a
another
different
video.
Yeah, that's a different video. Yeah, we line up our personal bikes. But on this one, your anticipation is this is your get leisure rides, some commuting on the streets, but also the ability to ride it on the bike path as a class 2, 15, 17 miles an hour, to be respectful of others that are on the bike path. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So when you ride this bike, do you feel like you're on a large motorcycle, the way I feel like I'm riding some of my bikes, or it feels more like what does it feel like? What does the handling feels like?
Well, I've got, like we were talking about, I've got the other Ristretto. The other Ristretto's got a 26-inch wheel, but again, similar frame design. And then I have another e-bike that has got 26-inch wheels, and it's very large and bulky. This is more streamlined. It handles a little bit more nimbly because of the small wheels. You can corner a little easier.
The 24-inch wheel
24
versus
26. And also they've changed the handlebar design. It's a little higher up. And again, with the pedal position, they've really refined the cockpit to give you a comfortable ride when you want to get out and just enjoy it.
So I earlier today when we were riding, and I was a few blocks behind you, and I was looking at the bike and you riding it, it looked very slim. That's something I've been noticing about a lot of our fat tire bikes. What that profile looks like when a rider is on it, especially with the accessories that we may put on some of our bikes. And some bikes feel like a bigger vehicle, a bigger EV. This feels slim.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I liked about it, is that it's a slimmer design.
Yeah, the width overall. The
Yeah.
handlebars are almost my shoulder width, which is when you're on the bike path, you are passing people coming at you. You don't want to have such a big machine that you feel like you have to get all the way over to the edge of the trail
Right,
just to let somebody
right,
by.
right,
And being that it's a nice slim profile, it's the profile, if you're coming from behind, it looks more like a bike.
So we know about the battery and the power. I don't really want to get into a lot of the technical detail about it. Technology is great on this. What does the suspension feel like riding it around the city?
So I have the similar fork on the current model. I had the original Ristretto, and this I haven't dialed the actual suspension. There's rebound control, there's compression, and then there's also rebound dampening. So I haven't adjusted it, but it rides really nice out of the box.
It handles very well.
They upgraded the rear shock to a Rocco, and it's got adjustable rebound. It also has adjustable compression, whereas the original design only had the adjustable compression. So it's a lot more refined. You can really dial it to the rider and the rider's weight and the way the rider performs.
And also where we're riding and what kind of,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. What do the tires feel like on the streets?
I actually found these to be very nice on the street, quieter than the original Ristretto had a knobby tire on it.
Right.
And these have lugs, so you do have some siping, you have some good control when conditions aren't perfect, but it's a lot smoother. It grips a lot better around corners.
Yeah,
It really did. When I was testing it out, I noticed that you again with larger bikes, you're not necessarily turning the handlebar as much as you are leaning into it, and it carves really well.
so something I've noticed, especially on the 20-inch, the one that I was riding, they carve beautifully. When you approach that corner and you get into that corner, the power delivery is so smooth that if you ease up on the power, start your carving into the curb and then crank it up a little bit, it just follows that line beautifully. And I enjoy riding bikes like that, where it's effortless. You know, you just point at it and it goes. You don't have to
You're not
fight it.
fighting it, yeah.
How about the ergonomics? Talk to me about the new display, because the display is a little bit different. You got the light control that's different. What do the ergonomics feel like?
So one of the things I really like, when they went to a single speed design, they were able to remove the gears.
Right.
The gear shifter over here, it kind of interfered with the throttle, and so it was a little tricky to maneuver the both of them, and I had to space things out on the handlebar to just get it right, whereas this is right where it needs to be. They've also added both brake lights, turn signals, and a horn. The original design has a light, but it has no signals and it has no horn. And, you know, having a little something to let people know which way you're going and that you're there, it's nice.
So the ergonomics felt great. I particularly rode the smaller one. I have ridden the 24-inch in the past, and one of the things, I have shorter legs, that I observed was, on this bike, I can pedal this bike with my full leg extension.
Yeah.
The way you described it, with the pedal being slightly forward, I'm sitting further back, and when I get the pedal in the 4 o'clock position, I'm practically have the perfect leg extension. However, for my height and my body geometry, the 20 felt better.
Yeah.
You're a little bit taller than me, you've got longer legs, this feels better.
This does.
So I think I'm really pleased that Christopher continues to release the Ristretto bikes in both 20-inch and 24-inch. It really accommodates a wider range of riders, and also not necessarily just taller or shorter, but the style of riding people prefer to do. And I think that's the key takeaway.
Yeah.
It fits more people that way.
And I come from a pedaling background with pedal bikes and being involved in the bike industry. So knowing where your leg needs to extend to is pretty important for when you're actually pushing on the pedals.
So one of the things I do, because sometimes most of the time I prefer to pedal. So when I'm riding a scrambler style bikes, right, whether it's the Quiet Cat Links, our old Saunders Mad Mods of the old days, and the Super 73s and so forth. So I like the idea of the ability to pedal when I need to. And some bikes are easier, some bikes are not, in this style of bicycles. This is one of the easier ones. The other thing I like about it is the way it's programmed out of the box with that street level. Even though a lot of people may just try it and say, oh my God, doesn't have enough power, I'm always gonna be in race and call it good. Some people can do that. The street, if you are in a congested area where you need to be very aware of the speed and you prefer to just keep a motion going, I'm thinking about the Thursday cruiser night rides where the thousands of people are moving at 5 miles an hour.
5, 7.
I want to have control.
Yeah.
And that's why the street mode really gives you that control to be able to enjoy an event like that on a bike like this.
Yeah.
And it's not always about sheer power and I'm going to go.
Right.
However, once you open this up, it feels amazing to be on the street the way we commute, and sometimes it's safer to be in the middle, not on the bike lane on the right, but you space yourself between two cars in a 30 miles an hour street,
25,
and you are a lot safer because it allows you to commute with the cars and be able to get out of danger when you absolutely need.
Yep.
Yeah. And this is one of those bikes that will lends itself very well.
Yeah.
28 miles an hour, not a problem. Obviously, it goes over 30. We know what the motor's capable of. But for everyday riding, if you're respectful and you're respectful of the power this bike offers, it's a joy to ride.
Oh, yeah.
It's a joy to ride.
Yeah, and one of the nice things about having a high-powered motor, but still only doing 28 or 30 miles an hour, is if you're, like you said, going to be in between two cars, and your motor isn't powerful enough. I love my other e-bike, but it maxes out around 1,200 or 1,400 watts. It's very heavy, and so going up a hill.
Right. You won't be able to keep up.
I have to push so hard, and I'm barely doing 25. Whereas this, I can get up to that speed and stay with traffic and keep safe.
Right. However, since we both know that there's a new wave of e-bike laws that will be enforced throughout, frankly, it's not just one or two states. This movement will spread to the whole country. Bikes like these will become that area where they're no longer an e-bike, they're off-road vehicles because of the sheer power. So we'll see what the long-term solutions will come in. I also anticipate in future iterations of bikes like these, there will be different features on them in order to somehow make them street legal so we can continue to enjoy these bikes.
Yeah, to keep them compliant.
Right. However, it also means that there will come a time that we will not be able to enjoy a bike like this as an e-bike because of the new rules.
It'll come into a classification that's
right.
Which
it's already here. It's already here, but it's going to become.
It's going to trickle across the country.
Right.
And one of the things, again, with that classification, I was talking to one of our other reps, and I mentioned, and this is something else that this bike is going to be available for. This battery is a 52 volt. They do offer a 72 volt upgrade.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
In that, when I mentioned that to our other rep, he said 72, that's a motorcycle. I sell motorcycles that have 72 volt systems. And in that is a sheerly off-road, not it's no longer a bicycle at that point. It has pedals, but when it has that much power, it is a motorcycle, and you have to respect it.
You have to respect it, exactly. It's a whole different game at that point. Coming back to this and a few other bikes that you and I both have test ridden, I appreciate electric bikes that are joy to ride at low speed, sometimes as much joy as riding it at high speed.
Yes.
If a bike can only be meant to be a high-speed bike and we only can enjoy it in race mode at all time, not the other aspects of it. Sometimes it fails being that experience that we're looking for, the bicycle experience.
Very true. In fact, I took the original Ristretto up to the Cherry Creek Reservoir.
Right.
And there's trails around there, but they're very low speed. And there's a lot of people watching nature, and so you don't want to be loud and fast.
Sure.
And I could ride that Ristretto 12 miles an hour,
Exactly.
15 miles an hour.
Exactly.
And again, it performed really nice. And when I tested this out before purchasing it, I tested out, how does it handle at low speeds? How is the volume of the motor at low speeds?
Right.
Is it going to be a nice quiet ride on the trail? And it's amazingly quiet. Even at 30, once you get up to speed, it's louder on acceleration. But once you're at speed, it doesn't take much for that motor to keep you moving at that speed, and it's quieter then. It's the acceleration that lets you know how much power is in there.
It is quieter than some of the other bikes we've tested. However, this does have a unique sound to it.
Yes.
It's like a signature sound. When that motor kicks in and it revs up, you could just hear it, and you know the motor is humming, but it has a very distinctive sound. Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that I like the sound that it produces. It knows it's there, you know it's there, you respect it, and when you rev it up, you get that feedback.
Yeah.
Some of the newer models that are hitting the market are designed not to have that feedback, and I appreciate this as a motor that lets you know I'm here whenever you need me.
Yeah, no, and that is, it's one of the, again, when I was saying pluses and minuses of single speed versus multi-speed, that same motor noise with the multi-speed, it's a very fun ride because each gear, as you wind it out, it's got that, you've got that feel, that wing, and it sounds and feels a lot more like a sports car.
Right.
Whereas this has got the single gear, and it's got that same hum,
the hum is there.
Power, yeah.
The hum is there.
And it's a head turner. People know when they hear that, it's not just an e-bike coming. It's a little something special.
Well, Chris, thank you very much for taking the time to share this with me.
Yeah.
Hopefully you and I and the rest of the team will be doing more videos. I'm making a commitment to start making videos again. It's been a couple of years. Let's just say we've been busy. And also, Chris, I want to give you and the rest of the team great compliment. You guys have built a great workstation. Maybe it's not done yet. It's still work in progress. Maybe we should do a video about why this thing is designed the way it is.
Yeah, I think that'll be
what we're going to be doing on the backside of this area, and how we come across what we're doing with these type of spaces. Yeah. But thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
Glad to be
Enjoy the bike.
here. I shall. I'm excited. Very excited.